Good morning,
Yes, sir.
afternoon, and evening, everyone. FPL is live for the 2021 season, so we thought it would be a good time to stream our reactions. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined, as usual, by someone who managed to grab a two-digit team ID, Big Man Bucker. How's it going, buddy?
I mean, that's something I can flex about today. I mean, I was constantly refreshing my page, the FPL page for I think over an hour, and that just explains how big of a low life I am. To just so that I can, flex about something as petty as a low FPL ID. I was, wasting my Monday afternoon. What is it? Is it
Tuesday.
Monday?
It's
It's a
Tuesday. You've
Tuesday
lost track
afternoon.
of time now. When you told me you got a two-digit ID, I was just hoping it was 69. I was
Unfortunately,
disappointed
not for you.
when it was 31.
Unfortunately, not, Zoff. Unfortunately, not.
Right? How?
Anyways, moving on. What was your ID?
Mine is 1096. I just missed out on the three-digit ID by I think a second or
All right.
two. Because I was scrambling over trying to put my password is very complicated with all sort of symbols, capitalizations, and all that. So putting my password alone, I think took me like 10 seconds, 12 seconds.
All right. All right. I got 31.
Yes, I think we already mentioned that.
Yeah.
How many times are you going to hear that now this season?
Countless.
I can bet. What about you, LR? How are you doing?
FPL is secondary. I mean, the most important question we need to be talking about, and the most important talking point today is Bucker's beard. I mean, I did a full poll on that. We had around 3,000, 4,000 people voting, and 75% of them said that they like Bucker with a beard. So, tell me, Bucker, why is the beard gone? Is the important 1% said something else?
No, it was purely a personal choice. I told you it was gonna go anyways, and yeah, I guess a lot of people like the fact and like seeing me in a beard, but I like it clean, so why not?
All right. Okay. All kinds of images in my head at the moment, but I'm going to move on swiftly. My team ID was absolutely shit. I mean, I never really ever had a high team ID. The last year was 50,000 something. And this year it was 6,775. So yeah, not much to talk about. Let's dive into FPL. I'm
Let's
excited
start.
to talk about the game.
Let's
Yep,
start.
yep.
First off, a quick word about our sponsors. DreamSetGo is a global portal for fans to gain access to sporting events around the world. Accommodation, flight tickets, hospitality, stadium visits, everything can be tailored exactly to your requirements. They also do celebrity experiences, which include masterclasses with your favorite sports celebrity or something as simple as birthday shoutouts. You can find links to the products in the description below.
Also, in case you guys don't already know, all the underlying numbers, all the stats that you see on this podcast are from our partners, Fantasy Football Scout. They currently have an awesome offer running. They have a 7-day free trial running. So if you aren't already a member, I think this is the best time to become a member, play around with the members area for a week, see if you like it. It always really, really helps us during the season. And we reckon it's going to help you as well. And we also have our FPL Wire league setup. So in case you guys aren't members of that league already, it's a good time to get in early. Our league code is GKTIYM. So just join our league and let's get right into it. What we're going to be doing today is we're just going to be talking about the game, about all the players, position wise, and just our first reactions and initial thoughts. But before we get into the goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, and forward breakdown, in detail, what's your first impressions? Pricing too lenient? What's your thinking there, Bakar?
Yeah, I actually find it very easy to make a decent squad. I don't have a draft yet, but from what I roughly have in mind, I think it's fairly straightforward. The template is already set because a few of the picks are absolutely obvious. You look at Trent at 7.5 with those fixtures. I know he's a bit on the pricier side, but 7.5 is something you'd expect to pay for someone of his price. Dini at 5.5. So many people, there are just obvious picks given their price range. You look at Sanchez at 4.5. He's, if you look at FPL Twitter, he's going to be 90%, 95% owned over there. So, I mean, there's so many picks who seem obvious at the start of the season, which is great. But I mean, having said that, it even though the fact that it makes it's easier for us to afford um, uh, a team of our choice. What I like is that it might lead to a bit of diversity because there might be a few different options which might be worth considering. For example, you look at the likes of Asar at 6 million. Not too many people are talking about him, but he's a good option, and there are quite a few others as well. So I mean, I like to see a bit of variety in the drafts which you might see. You look at the City defenders, for example.
6 million for the
I mean,
Zoff,
this is still about 7 weeks ago, right? A lot of things are going to change, and we are assuming there'll be a template right now. But think the landscape could change again by 6 to 7 weeks with the transfers. Right now, Kane will be in nobody's team. Kane moves to City; he's the first name in everybody's team. So I think we're getting a little bit off ahead. A lot of people who are saying that, oh, the template is the same, everyone will have the same players. That's only because now. It's only because of the initial reaction. There's going to be preseason. Somebody's going to bang a hat trick in preseason, and he's going to be randomly in everybody's team. So things will evolve. This is the earliest FPL has launched, I think, since almost 7 weeks before the kickoff.
Why is it
looking at the
though?
prices.
Why do you think that's the case?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's fine. I'm okay with it. Just gives us more time to dive into it.
It's for us guys like us who didn't play the Euros, bro. We need something to do.
I think it's probably because they want to get a bigger chunk of the market in terms of the audience by launching early. I don't mind it personally.
I mean, yeah, why not?
I just found it to be a bit bizarre.
Why not launch early? If they're not making many major software upgrades, ultimately you're generating traffic on the site. You're generating clicks and impressions on social media. So I could see why they've done it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Zoff, looking at the prices, any thoughts on how the game might play out this season from a macro point of view?
It's interesting because what I noticed, rather than more than a pricing strategy, I think this year defenders, there seem to be a lot of bargains. I noticed, I think 12 teams have a starting defender at 4.5. Forwards in general, I think have all received at least a 1 million price hike than what I expected. You had the likes of Watkins at 6 million and Adams at 6 million last year. I think there's been a conscious effort not to spread the forward line that cheap this year.
Yep, I reckon so, because there's too much value in that 4.5 million price bracket. I mean, out of all the price brackets, that price bracket jumped out to be. And I reckon that we might be able to spend a little more in attack. That's just a first impression. We might be able to spend a little more in attack given the value that is on offer in that 4.5 million. In general, the defense has a lot of value. I mean, Chilwell is 0.5 million lesser than he should be, in my opinion. Ruben Dias is 0.5 million cheaper than he should be, and what I was expecting. I think somebody like a Maguire is 0.5 million cheaper than what he should be. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot of value picks to emerge, and the forwards didn't do too well last season, so that's something to talk about, especially when all of them are getting a price hack at the moment as well.
Correct. Let's just go by position. Let's want to have a look at goalkeepers first.
Yeah,
sure.
Who jumps out to you, Zoff? Why don't you start?
I know Bakar mentioned Sanchez earlier, but this is something you had mentioned before we started. I think Sanchez is not very good for save points. I think what you had mentioned, he got 3+ saves. I think only in how many percentage, Alar? How many matches was that?
Yes, so I have this stat. I'm quoting it from Nirvana. Let me just get it very, very quickly. I thought it was a very interesting stat. Sanchez has only reached 3+ saves in 33% of the games that he's played. Of those that he's played, he's reached 6 saves only once. So even though he gained a steady 10 clean sheets for the season, he only received 8 bonus points. Pope, on the other hand, reached 20 bonus points. And he had 1 more clean sheet than Sanchez. But the big difference, I mean, Sanchez obviously played half the games, but the big difference is that Pope reached 3+ saves in 63% of his games compared to Sanchez's 33%. And 8 of those games, which is 25% of the games, he reached 6+ saves. So, while, and this is assuming that Potter is going to stay at Brighton, because we've all spoken about, so if you were telling me that the odds for Potter going to Spurs has gone up today, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. People in the chat are mentioning that the video is lagging at the moment. So in case you want to change the settings, the Anirudh says, no, then let's not do it. It seems okay right now. But yeah, so the question that comes to me, Bakar, is what's more important, clean sheets or point saves, I think we need to discuss that. We need to challenge the thinking behind going for a 4.5 million Sanchez first, because Dubravka is 4.5 million. He's going to get a lot more saves than what a Sanchez could potentially get. Newcastle have decent fixtures at the start of the season, and I don't think the decision is as much of a no-brainer when you have a Schmeichel and a United keeper at 5 million. So
Exactly. So you know that I was one of the strongest advocates of the Brighton defense last season based on their underperformance in terms of their expected goals and big chances conceded. Um, but yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, the way Brighton set up and the way they play is completely different to someone like a Burnley or a Villa, where they play where they don't exactly accumulate too many passes at the back, because at Brighton, the defenders, they have a very high passing percentage completion. Which is why it makes it very difficult for the keeper to get a share of the bonus points, because someone like a Dunk is likely to, or White is likely to get a bigger share of the bonus points. While at Villa or Burnley, Martinez and Pope have so many saves to make that the other defenders don't really stand or come close in terms of bonus accumulation. Um, so Sanchez, I think, is a good pick, but it's very important to think that he's not an Emi Martinez or a Nick Pope who's as explosive in terms of their ceiling. Personally, Sanchez is a good option at 4.5, given that he can provide a steady flow of points through clean sheets. But personally, the one who stands out for me is Dean Henderson, and I think I might go with Henderson over Sanchez in my draft, because I think that he's likely to be more explosive, even in terms of saves. The Man United keeper, he tends to make more saves in general. So I think that might be a move worth making, given the fact that it's important to take bonus accumulation into effect as well.
any other names jumping out to you? Soft?
Schmeichel, but when Fofana's at 4.5, then not for me.
I think
Yes, Continue.
I think in the promoted teams, I think Watford kept 23 clean sheets last year, and you can get Buckman Foster at 4.5, 4.0. I like that. Brentford, I think one of our friends, FPL Irons, who will be on the pod soon, he was mentioning that they had the lowest XGC. So they also concede the good lot of those low quality chances which we like for FPL. So there's somebody to watch out for. The thing also, something to keep is Sanchez. I like Lamptey's price at 4.5, for example, but early on in the season, I'm not too confident about doubling up on defenses. A lot of things are erratic, so you have to watch out for that also. If I get Lamptey, I might skip out on Sanchez. I don't really want to double up.
If just initial reactions, just want to know where your instinct is going. If you decide to go without Sanchez as your keeper, where else would you go at the start of the season? Just initial reactions.
Watford is where you go. You wouldn't look at three really good, in my opinion, 5 million keeper options in terms of. I'm not spending more than 4.5 on my keepers.
You're not spending.
It's ingrained in my psyche.
Dubravka is the one you need to look at then.
They had 7 clean sheets last season. Or 6.
Yeah, the save points though. Dubravka is a save point monster. That's the only thing that comes.
You have to have some sort of clean sheet potential. In Newcastle, I have no faith at all.
Fair enough. And I agree with the point, where when you're talking about Sanchez, you have starting Brighton defenders at 4.5 million who could be offering a lot more. And Bucker's point about getting them pass percentage and getting more bonus points, it's interesting in my opinion.
Correct. Anyway, goalkeepers is a bit boring. Let's move on to the defenders.
Yeah, let's move on to the defenders. Anyone going without Trent at the start of the season?
No way.
Not with those fixtures, definitely not. Unless we have an injury to Van Dijk or something in pre-season, something like that.
Any defenders that jump out to you in that entire bracket? Let's go to Bucker first. Who jumps out to you?
I think there's a lot of value to be had in defense. At the moment, I'm strongly leaning towards a 4 at the back to begin with. You look at the likes of Digne, his fixtures, Everton's fixtures, Southampton, Leeds, Brighton, Burnley in the first 4. You look at someone like even a double up on Liverpool. I'm not averse to it. I like the idea of Robertson and Trent. I have been a very strong advocate of it at the start of last season and even before that as well. And I think I might go there again.
I think it'll be a third season in a row where you'll start with
double.
Yes, I don't mind the idea of going there again. Norwich, Burnley, Chelsea, Leeds, Crystal Palace to begin with. I don't really mind that, given the fact that I just think that these defenders are likely to outscore their counterparts when it comes to, when you look at 6 million midfielders or 7 million midfielders. I just think the defenders are far more superior, which is why I'm leaning towards a 4 at the back. Other than this, I even like Zinchenko. There are reports that he's likely to start as City's first choice left back this season, and City or City, they can accumulate clean sheets at will. So there's that, and
how much is Zinchenko? 5.5?
I think so. Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, I'll load it up a second. Yeah, hold up.
Yeah, he's 5.5.
Yeah, he's 5.5. Stones is 5.5 as well. Yeah, that point still stands. Yeah, and other than that, someone like a Fofana, he's an absolute gift at 4.5 million. He's definitely 0.5 undervalued, and in that Leicester defense, I don't mind going with him. So I mean, I've looked at other 4.5 defenders as well to begin with, but Cody was the one who stood out the most to me. But unfortunately, Wolves don't have too many good fixtures to begin with, and Leeds fixtures are also iffy. So I won't go with Ayling at the start. So Fofana, Digne, Shaw, even Shaw's fixtures are great, and he has the potential going forward. We know how many chances he creates, so he's good for bonus. Then there's Trent Robertson. So I really like the defensive options this year.
Even Masuaku, I think in the 4.5 million defender bracket, he was injured for the second half of last season, but he was a starting defender in that West Ham team at the start of last season, if you remember. So I think he's a decent shout given West Ham's first 4-5 fixtures as well. The only problem is the Europa League that but I think Masuaku is a good shout. Anybody else jumping out to you in this cheap midfielder price bracket, Zoff?
Cheap defender, you mean?
Yeah.
Watford have a decent starter fixture, not so thing. The cheap other defenders, I think Fofana, you guys have mentioned. Lamptey, we already mentioned. Apart from that, Southampton have a good array, but their fixtures aren't really good. Sorting by fixture, maybe Arsenal, I think, had a starter at 5, not at 4.5.
If Ben White goes to Arsenal, you could have a starting Arsenal 4.5 million defender.
Wolves are 6th on the ticker here, but I look at the fixtures, Leicester, Spurs, United in the first 3. So even though Cody is 4.5, I really wouldn't recommend going there.
And I mean, everybody is mentioning Cody, but I think the forgotten man out here is Johnny Otto. I think he's a great fullback, and if he's fit at the start of the season, he's not fit at the start of the season.
Unfortunately, no.
You guys reckon Lamptey will be back to match fitness at the start of the season, given that he barely played after October?
I mean, there's an entire preseason to get through.
Exactly.
Let's hope he's fit, because I'm willing to go there again, honestly.
Yeah,
if he's fit.
I think we all are. But the problem is how long he will stay fit. With Lamptey.
Yeah,
and he's the king of all fart, no poo, right? So,
yeah.
I definitely want to go there. It's just exciting as a voice to own Lamptey. I think he was just unlucky. I just hope if Potter is staying at Brighton, I hope that they get a good finisher. I think if the moment they get a good finisher, everything will change. Just need that happening.
Marco in the chat is mentioning, Mark, so I just want to highlight what Marco was saying. He said Spurs have a couple of options, centre back, Dyer and Sanchez are 4.5, which is interesting. Holding also, he says, is 4.5, which is one to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Spurs to get a manager. I have no idea who they're going to get. And so it's all a wait and watch when it comes to Spurs. If Potter goes to Spurs, then like we were talking before the stream, I think Sergio Reguilon could be very interesting at 5 million, playing in a wing-back role. And he's one of those wing-backs who cuts in for a goal as well. He's just not all crosses as well. So I think Rex could be really interesting if Potter goes to Spurs. But again, it's all speculation. We don't know what's happening. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about, Zoff, is your team. They were the premium defense in the second half of last season once Tuchel came in. Your fixtures are Palace, Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Spurs, City. Now, would you be worried by investing in I think Chilwell's underpriced by 0.5 million.
Definitely. He probably is. But now let's have a look at the fixtures more closely. Palace, we could keep a clean sheet. Arsenal, we could keep a clean sheet. Liverpool, probably not. Villa, yes. Spurs, maybe. City, probably not. So I would say you could rely on probably 6 clean sheets. 4 would be optimistic. 6 would be unrealistic.
Do you see yourself going there at the start of the season?
No,
or maybe at the
no. I'm a bit confused with what strategy I'm going to adopt in defense because of so many 4.5 options. Normally, my strategy is to pick 3 big defenders, like 5.5 million, 6 million defenders. Just play them every week from your Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, etc. But there's so much value there this year. I think it'll be amiss to go with just the big guys and ignoring the value options.
Agreed. I think we might just overthink, and I have a strong inkling the correct play might just be sticking in Ruben Dias there at 6 million and chilling. I think that's just one spot sorted for majority of the season. I'm just thinking we might overthink with other value options everywhere, but he seems like the obvious safety net pick, at the start of the season. What do you reckon, Bakar?
Who are you talking about? Sorry.
Diaz.
Ruben Dias.
Yeah, definitely. 6 million is way too cheap. When you look at he's 0.5 underpriced in my opinion. I was expecting him to come at 6.5 minimum. Playing for a premium defense, I like his nailed onness to begin with. But the thing is, with at the start of the season, when the congestion isn't really a factor, you can probably go with someone like a Zinchenko or Stones.
Yeah.
Right, but when does the Champions League start? Champions League starts after the first international break?
I think around game week 4 or 5.
Yeah, so that's when again rotation starts becoming an issue, right? Ultimately, when you build a team, you want to have at least 7-8 weeks in mind. That's why I don't like the Zinchenko in particular.
United defenders, what do you think about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. The fixtures are a bit mixed. Let's say Leeds, I don't see a clean sheet there. You have Southampton, Wolves, both of which are away. Newcastle, yes. I don't think the fixtures are that good defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I can see us keeping a clean sheet maybe in 2 of the first 4 fixtures, maybe 3 clean sheets in the first 6. But again, if I was picking a United defender, I'd be going for the 5 million keeper or going for somebody like a Shaw. Who has phenomenal underlying numbers. And, we're going to talk about it later. And I've seen a lot of drafts with the likes of we'll discuss that when the forward conversation happens, because I'm interested in the United striker at 8.5 million, who I think will be nailed at the start of the season, especially because there might not be any rotation. So I mean, we'll talk about Cavani later, but that's just something that's in my head that I haven't seen too much of around at the moment. Cool. Any other defenders you guys want to talk about, or let's move on to the
just quickly touch upon Dean. Dean seems to be an auto pick in most teams. I just wanted to have a closer look at his fixtures. 5.5 is a good price, and I think he offers more than any defender. But it depends who's going to be their manager. So you have Southampton, good clean sheet possibility. Leeds, Brighton, iffy. Burnley, Norwich. I think the home games are good.
Yeah, the home games are good, but I'm not convinced by those other games. Leeds, Brighton, Villa, all three good attacks, middling attacks. I'd much rather go for a United defender than an Everton defender at first instance. My mind is going to change on the last minute. I don't know, but I don't know if it's an auto pick.
Yeah.
Good option.
The Liverpool fixtures are brilliant in that sense, so I can understand Bakar's reasoning of going with the double. The fixtures are really good.
Yeah, I think the decision is going to be, I think Trent and Salah are pretty much going to be in everybody's draft. So the decision is going to come down to that third spot, whether you're going to go for a premium midfielder to accompany Salah in Mane, whether you're going to go for Jota, who might not necessarily be nailed, or you're going to go for Van Dijk or a Robertson. That's the good decision, I reckon.
Let's have a quick look at midfielders.
Yeah, let's dive into the midfielders.
Let's talk.
Also, while we're getting into the midfielders, we have around 360 people in the chat. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button, because we have got a ton of content planned. I mean, Zof's already got a what's it called? Stream Deck?
The Stream Deck. That's why you can see I'm doing all the transitions and I can switch between scenes much quicker now.
Yeah. So he's got a Stream Deck in the background. We're working on our graphics and all of that. We've got a ton of content planned in preseason as well,
and a new intro video. I'm really excited about that. It's coming along nicely.
Yeah, so there's a lot of action happening on our channel. We're going to produce a lot more content than last season. So make sure you're hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and keep notifications on, because there's going to be a lot more content this season. All right, let's move into the midfielders. Let's talk about the premiums.
Right.
I mean, Fernandes and Mo are the ones that everybody's looking at. What do you think about KDB at 12 million? I want to talk about that first. Bakar?
KDB, I mean, I'm surprised to see him rise in price, because I thought he'd probably fall in price, if anything, given the fact that he didn't really perform according to his underlying numbers. Because his underlying numbers last season were great, but he didn't really perform as per expectation when it comes to FPL. So I'm a bit surprised over there. I mean, I don't think I'm going to go with KDB at the start for 12 million. I won't go there personally because he won't be a captaincy option for me in maybe not even in game week 2 when they play Norwich because Liverpool play Burnley. So maybe if I'm looking at someone like a City, I'm from City, I might go for someone like a Mahrez, who's 9 million surprisingly, because I thought Sterling would fall in price, and Sterling's still surprisingly 11 million, and Mahrez is the one who's just 9 million. So he's the one who stands out for me from the City players.
Zoff, I mean, I remember speaking to you. You're not interested in City at all at the start of the season.
Nope, not really at the start because, like you said, De Bruyne is a bit overpriced. I'd be interested, of course, if Kane goes there. That would be a complete game changer. I think if Kane moves to City, his ownership, I think, will be close to 60% by the deadline.
Yeah, I just think that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Liverpool scoring 4-5 early. If Liverpool score big against Norwich, and then you have game week 2 with City, home game against Norwich, and everybody's thinking and worried about captaincy very early on, a little bit of chaos. I won't be surprised if something like this happens.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about it in the previous stream as well, right? When the fixtures came out. The City have decent fixtures in game week 2 and 3, and there are not really any standout captaincy options in those 2 game weeks. So I reckon it's very interesting.
If Kane moves to City, then I think it's because I don't think too many managers will be keen on selling Salah. So it's going to be a straight
Bruno. Yeah.
fight out between Bruno and Kane. It's basically one or the other, right?
Correct.
That's the way I see it.
Until Jadon Sancho shows up.
Yeah, he can't get into the England team.
Yeah. I mean, Southgate is the manager. Chilwell is spending time hugging Billy Gilmore at the moment. So,
yeah, Billy Gilmore doesn't have any mates in the Scotland team at all. They don't need to isolate. Nobody comes near Billy Gilmore in the Scotland team.
That entire situation is just so bizarre, so bizarre. I think we should, not comment.
Yeah,
about
let's
the
not talk
England
about
team.
these Euros. The Euros are just noise. They're just noise to us FPL players. Right.
But on the topic of City, Foden at 8 million, Gundogan at 7.5 million, Torres at 7 million. Any of them come into play, you reckon?
I mean, let's have a quick look at their midfielders in particular. I'll just bring up the City mids and let's just go through them one by one because I think City are one of the teams worth talking about. Naturally, they are the defending champions. So let's look at their midfielders. Harrison will go after Leeds. You have Gundogan at 7.5. Not really interested there. I don't think he'll be afforded as much attacking license. Sterling at 11. There's talks he wants to leave, by the way. Sterling he's made some noises about not being happy at City. So that's interesting if he does move. Mahrez at 9, like you said, very strong second half of the season. Good Champions League performances at 9. De Bruyne at 12. Depends if he offers some sort of semblance of goal threat. He showed it, but it was very frustrating to own. Foden at 8, I think is interesting as much as Mahrez is. Torres at 7.
Foden's minutes per points are ridiculously high.
Yeah,
Exactly.
outrageous. Brilliant.
Ridiculously high. So if he's playing, he's gold. But do you reckon it's a trap at the start of the season, or do you
It's
go?
a massive if. I mean, we were having the same discussion at the start of last season. I think Foden is more established now, but I still can't say this with any kind of certainty that he's going to be first choice.
That's the problem with any City of these guys, right? Except De Bruyne.
Yeah.
But
Gundogan,
also
I
with
guess.
City, I reckon this, like Bakar mentioned earlier, probably this first 5, 6, 7, 10 game week period is the best time to go into City because lesser prone to rotation, because not much Champions League pressure. So that's another argument against staying away from City because they could not be rested early season when they're playing, and he might play the strongest team early season.
So who's on
Do
your
you
watch
have any
list?
City in your draft right now, Pranil?
So I don't have a draft. It's too early to make a draft. I'm just talking in terms of what we are doing, what we are not doing, and trying to give a balanced argument to pros and cons both sides.
So
Just doing that.
so let's just do this quickly. Who are your top 3 City assets that you would like to watch out for maybe in pre-season? Who are the top 3 assets that are in your thoughts?
Mahrez, Foden, KDB.
In that order?
In that order.
Bakar?
I think Mahrez, Zinchenko, Foden.
That's interesting because for me it was I'm sort of a De Bruyne or bust guy. If I can't afford De Bruyne, I probably won't go for any of the other options unless I see that they really hit the ground running. I'm going to take a more of a wait and watch approach. I think I may shift one of my midfielders to a City mid in game week 2, depending on who hits the ground running in game week 1. But
What's your instinct though? I mean, last season's style of play that Pep adopted was basically training for the Champions League final, where
correct.
he
Where he got
decided
beaten comprehensively.
he got beaten comprehensively. But the funniest part was he plays this entire team. He's making them play together. It's a set starting 11, and then he fucks around with that starting 11 in the final. That's just so typical of Pep, and he's been fucking training for that final all season. He's walking the league. He's trying to make his team play in a set style primarily because of the UCL. I reckon that's because of the UCL. Because City normally score 100 goals and they did 75-80 last year because of, in my opinion, Champions League being in the back of his head. What do you reckon? Do you think Pep reverts to type? Does he go all out attack, or is it going to be a slow exhaust the opponent, suffocate them kind of a playstyle for City again?
A mixture, I would think, midway. Bakar?
Yeah, it's so hard to predict actually. I mean, that starting 11 in the final. I mean, they didn't play together over the past 3 months even once. I don't think he named that starting 11 in any of his games either.
He played without a holding midfielder. He played Gundogan, their top scorer, as holding midfield. I was so happy when I saw that lineup. I could never forget that.
It was so bizarre. But I mean, City are City, so I do expect them to do well in the Premier League. And like I don't mind starting with someone like Foden or Mahrez to begin with, and maybe even a defender.
The defense is a completely different aspect. We are talking only about the attack. The defense is actually far more settled than their attack. I think defend, you can actually probably pick their first choice back four now.
Yeah. So I mean, depending on what happens in preseason, Foden and Mahrez will be in my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you guys?
So I wanted to move on from Man City. I wanted to talk about Bruno. He didn't have a very strong, I would say, end to the season. I don't know whether it was tiredness, whether it was a different role. The underlying numbers dropped a lot. He's looking a bit tired during this Euros as well. Do you think he could possibly not be worth 12 million?
Bakar?
Stunned silence.
It's actually a very pertinent question, and it's very tough to answer because his underlying stats at the beginning of the season were actually much better than his stats in the last 6 to 8 game weeks. So Zoff does definitely he has a point, but what adds value to the argument that Zoff is making is the fact that in game week from 1 to 4, I don't think I'll necessarily be captaining Bruno in any of the fixtures.
Precisely, because you'll just go with Salah. I think Salah, when he has
maybe in game week 4 when Man United have Newcastle at home, but definitely not in the first 3 fixtures, which adds more value to the argument.
Because you.
I just want to mention to you, the moment you're moving to the browser, the stream is logging.
Yeah, I've noticed this when it's going to the browser window is causing the stream to lag. It's not liking the real-time capture.
Yeah, so we can just move out of the browser for the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment.
I'm at the ticker now. So just looking at Liverpool Salah is good for game week 1, game week 2, Norwich, Burnley. Game week 3, he has Chelsea. At that time, Bruno has Wolves away. Not exactly the best fixture to captain. I don't know how the new manager will play, but he doesn't necessarily help in that rotation aspect of it.
Yeah. In game week 3, the captaincy options are Spurs and City, in my opinion.
We had discussed that. Correct.
Exactly. But I mean,
you could do a swap to KDB, keep Bruno for the first 2, swap to KDB, something like that.
If Kane moves to City, then I think it's an easy choice.
It's an easy choice. Then Kane is legit perma-cap material, irrespective of fixture.
Yeah. Also, strategy comes into play, right? I'm feeling very shameful to say this, but I've learned my lesson from last year as well. And I think you also need to pay attention to terms of what ownership Bruno is going to have at the start of the season. Correct. It's probably going to be really high as well. And I'm going to go back to what my friend Abdul told us and diverted my attention to in terms of, sticking with the crowd at the start of the season, just talking about macro strategy here. Because what happened last year, and it's a lesson I learned, is because I went against, I made stupid decisions, let's forget that. But I went against the template a lot. And what that led to is me being outside the 3.54 million mark around game week 5-6. And what happened was I started trying too hard. And when I started trying too hard, those decisions became worse and worse as in when I moved on. And the season as it panned out was a season for the holders, not the chasers. So that's also something worth monitoring because his ownership is going to be really high.
Yep, definitely. So anybody else interests us in the premium mids besides these guys? Who are the other ones? You have Mane, you have Son.
when you're talking about the premiums, I think the one person we're going to talk about a lot in a month's time is Jadon Sancho, and I think it's somebody we're going to talk about because he's got 30 goals plus assists in 3 seasons back to back. And also, when it comes to new players, there's a certain theory in my head. What do you guys think about that? Where uh, when you're investing in a new player, it's okay to invest in a new player if he's just coming into a team and he's just one component that's getting added to a team. That's a much different equation to what happened at Chelsea last year, where they had a completely new attack. So it was a completely new system that you hadn't seen before, which is why probably somebody like a Salah, when he joined the league, was adapted to the league much faster than all these Chelsea guys thrown in at once. What do you think about that?
Bakar?
I mean, you're right. It's hard to say, how a new player would fit in. But I mean, Sancho he's proven it at the top level. So
that's fine. But Bakar, what do you think? Does this theory make sense in the sense that Chelsea was a new team playing together? Sancho is just one attacker getting added to a team that's used to playing with each other.
I agree. I completely agree. I think that he can do well at the start if that's what you're trying to ask. I think that yes, he can fit right in. I expect him to be priced around 9.5. What do you think? 9.5 to 10 million?
Yeah, probably around that.
Somewhere like that. And at that price, he's offering a 2 million saving over Bruno. Then why not?
It's just interesting to watch. I think I'm going to be watching those United preseason games, especially because we have decent fixtures from an attacking standpoint. So let's see what happens. Let's move on from the premiums now.
Yeah, let's talk about the budget mids. I think there's a lot more to unpack here in this aspect.
You let's go section by section. You want to talk about the 6 to 9 million, 7 to 9 million.
I mean, let's talk about 6.5. Let's talk about 6 to 9 million. There are a few below, but let's just talk about work our way down. I won't go to the browser window since it seems to be lagging the chat.
All right, I'll mention the names. As we are going down from 9 million. I mean, Havertz is the one that comes out at 8.5, sitting alone in that price bracket. What do you think about that, sir?
It's interesting because I expect him to play striker whenever he does play, and a lot depends on who we sign. We are being linked with a lot of illustrious names, Haaland, Lukaku, etc. If we don't sign anyone, then Havertz is probably our first choice striker. Timo will probably play more of a wide role. If we do sign someone, then it becomes interesting because Havertz isn't probably... You still need Timo in the team to create the width, to create the ball progression, to stretch the play. So that new striker would directly be competing with Havertz, I think, more so than Timo.
Akar, in the 6 to 9 million bracket, who jumps out to you rather than going with discussing everybody? And we've discussed the city mids.
Okay, Foden, depending on how he does in preseason. Other than that, no one has such. There's Harvey Barnes, who I want to have a look at, depending on how he does in preseason. Greenwood at 7.5 is the one who interests me the most. And depending on whatever happens with Grealish at 8 million. Those are the two names which I think I like the most. We've just spoken about Bruno being 12 million and not exactly being a captaincy option. So someone like Greenwood could offer a bit of a saving if we choose to pick just the one. Because Greenwood, I expect him to kick on the season, and I think he's going to do well if he looks like starting. Other than that, depending on whatever happens with Grealish, if he stays at Villa, he's straight in my team with those fixtures.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. If he's at Villa, 8 million, he's in your team?
100%.
That's
There's
what
no
I'm
way
thinking
he's
too.
not. Yeah.
He's the name that jumps out to me at 8 million if he's staying at Villa.
And if we move lower down the bracket, then the likes of Bundia and Sarr, those two are the ones who I like the most. I mean, I see Rafinha in a lot of drafts, but I'm not really sure about him because Leeds' fixtures, they're a bit tough. Man United away, Everton, Burnley away, Liverpool.
But does it matter? I mean,
No.
they're a top
I mean,
6 in the league attacking.
They aren't even that hard. I think you guys are looking at...
They're okay. They're okay, but I mean, I'd rather back someone with the fixtures, someone like a Sarr or Bundia.
But I totally disagree. I'm at the complete polar opposite with my thinking over there. I'd rather back a proven talent, a proven team we know in Leeds and Rafinha and those fixtures. Like, you look at the fixtures again, right? It's United away. Rafinha got 2 assists in the same fixture last year. It could be a 2-2, 3-1, whatever. Could nick something. Everton, good fixture. Burnley, good fixture. Liverpool, could be anything. Newcastle away and West Ham. And what we've seen, right, early on, I don't think the first 3-4 weeks, especially, fixtures matter as much as form. A lot of teams start very well versus teams not starting Well, and Leeds, the thing is, right, Bielsa is going to have most of these guys available very early after the Euros. The likes of Bamford, Rafinha, they're not doing any sorts of international duty. So I expect Leeds to start strong. You have
Yeah, and
Rafinha on set
I'm
pieces.
I'm with you on it. It's very, very difficult to go wrong with a Rafinha, I reckon. And in my head, it's one of the picks that I like that emerges in the template, and it makes complete sense to me. He's underpriced in my opinion, and he's just somebody who, you know how we talk about glue guys, right? I think Rafinha sticks out to
Precisely.
me as a glue.
It's someone you can
You
stick
just
in
put him
there.
in a team, and you don't need to worry about him for a long, long time.
Exactly, and because I will probably still have Sarr in my team because Watford's fixtures are good, but I think Rafinha was one of the first picks in my team once I saw that price.
The thing with
The one
Rafinha is I agree that he's underpriced and he's likely to represent value, but I think that even though he's likely to chip in with an assist here and there, I don't think he has that sort of a ceiling that
Correct,
I
but
really
my
like.
point is, in the early few weeks, it's an easy move from Rafinha to somebody like Buendia or Sarr to once as you see them performing, right? What I like to
Yeah,
go,
I get your point. I mean, he's tried and tested and proven, which is fine. I completely agree
you
with
know, the
what you're saying.
identity
It's
of
just
the
that
team, how they'll play, how they'll adjust, what sort of roles. The thing with Sarr now, he played three different positions last year under two different managers. He played on the wing, he played as striker. We don't know what sort of approach
but
these guys are
Zoff,
going to take.
this is why I'm leaning more towards a forward at the back because I'm not sure of someone like Rafinha. Do you think someone like Robertson or even Digne, Rafinha is going to outscore either of them?
It's hard to say in that sense, as in Robertson. The thing is, if you're talking purely, if they're going to have the clean sheet potential they did last year, then probably not.
Also, as Bakar, you don't count the exact value to value comparison when you're comparing a defender to a midfielder because you have 7 viable defenders who are 5.5 million. You have 0 viable midfielders who are 7 viable defenders who are 4.5 million, and you have 0 viable midfielders who are 4.5 million. So I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison because the option in defense at a much cheaper price is far greater compared to midfield. So I don't think you can compare 7 million to 7 million straight to straight,
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
And there's also the thing is, right, why I like going 3-4-3 early season is you have flexibility to move across bandwagons. If you go four at the back early on, then your attacking spots are limited. First few weeks need to be a bit more flexible to jump on price rises, to jump on the form attackers, because it's very rare that the defenders are going to start showing crazy form early on. There's less chance of that.
All right, 6.5 million bracket we've spoken about. One midfielder I think I want to have a conversation around is Diogo Jota. Now, we are going to be obviously worrying about his minutes early on, but 7.5 million of those fixtures, worried about X minutes or going to take that gamble? I think he's going to be very highly owned as well early season. What do you reckon? Bakar?
I mean, if we get any sort of indication he's starting, I'm willing to go there again, and it's probably going to come back to bite me.
Oh yeah, you had terrible luck with Jota. Yeah.
Yes, as was the case last season. But I mean, it's so hard to figure out whether he's going to be first choice, especially if the trio Firmino, Salah, Mane, they stay fit, and you never know. But if there's any sort of indication that he's going to start as first choice, then he's going to be in my team.
Absolutely, yep. If we see in preseason that he's tearing it up, or there's any injury or to the front three, then he becomes one of the most budget picks in the game.
What I like is that Liverpool's fixtures at the beginning. Norwich, Burnley in particular, they're fixtures in which he can perhaps even go with 4 attackers. So that makes me slightly more confident in Jota.
I don't see that changing though. I think the situation that came in at the end of last season, where I think that front four is going to rotate a little bit. I think that situation is going to continue this season because he's got a very strong front four, and I think he's going to mix it up again. So if he's not nailed on, but if he's paying 120 minutes out of a potential 180, would you be worried about that? Because he's got brace potential even as a sub.
I know, but it's so annoying when you pick him at
not early on, not early on. Maybe later on when you see some form. But early on, you want to pick. I mean, you don't want to pick at players in game week 1 and see him on the bench. That's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to ask where you guys are.
No, I know. Absolutely, it's a fair question and it's a very valid one you should ask because look at the fixtures.
Exactly.
Let's just talk about Everton. James Rodriguez is at 7, and I think he will be good for the first few weeks and then fade out. Someone you can look at.
No comments until a new manager comes, is what I'd say.
Fair enough. That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I'm just going by fixtures here. So Everton we've already discussed. Liverpool we've discussed. Watford I think is pretty much sour or bust in terms of the midfield at least. Forwards I heard. We can talk about Pedro also a little bit. I think Pedro was decent. Brighton, Trossard, interest you guys?
If they
No.
get a decent finisher, I'm not.
I'm not sure. I don't think any Brighton attacker particularly interests me. Man United we already spoken about. Wolves, the fixtures, I don't know how they're so high up on the ticker. Probably because of 4, 5, 6. It's Leicester, Spurs,
Yeah.
United. So I don't
First
think.
three are very tough off.
Yeah. So I don't think.
Leicester away, Spurs at home, United at home in the first three.
Yeah. So we won't be touching the Leicester. Maybe. What about Harvey Barnes if he's fit?
Ian Nacho 7.5, so I'll definitely go there.
Better option, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Somebody we haven't.
And Nacho is seeing how he finished last season. I can see Leicester playing two up top again.
Yep, they probably
I
will
don't
play.
know how they're gonna start.
I think they'll play two up top. I think Rodgers generally prefers that sort of system. Now Arsenal, Smith Rowe at 5.5 is interesting.
Smith Rowe at 5.5, even Saka at 6.5. To me, is very interesting. I think he's going to grow leaps and bounds. I think his growth has been pretty good as well. So he's one that's interesting. And if Martinelli finds his way into the team, 5.5 million midfielder again this season.
But Saka as a fifth, Smith Rowe as a fifth midfielder would interest me, not as a fourth midfielder. I think as a rotation option, he'd be far better, given the fact that Arsenal have Chelsea and City in Gameweek 2 and 3. So I don't think it makes sense to rely on him as your 11th player.
He got 7 returns in around 1400 minutes at the end of last season, which I think is pretty healthy. If they don't end up signing Odegaard, then and if he's looking likely to be the nailed on number 10 for Arsenal, I think it's a good shout at 5.5.
Yeah, but they have Europa. No, they don't have Europa League this year, do they? So actually, it would be less rotation in Arsenal.
That was a low blow.
No, I wasn't actually trying.
No, but generally, I mean, if it came to Man United and if it came to my team, I'd much rather they not play the Europa than play. I'd much rather they not play the Europa.
Yeah,
if they would.
Absolutely.
I just prefer that for my own team. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yep. Villa, I think. No, sorry, West Ham first. West Ham, any midfielders interest? Souček Pakar?
Souček is 6 million now. Wow.
No comments.
Wow, the Wolves are still.
The fixtures are good, but I mean, I'm not sure. West Ham, I just there's a sort of team I just can't read. So I don't know. I'll reserve judgment till the.
Do they have to play Europa League qualifiers before like Spurs had to do?
I think so. They do. I think
yes,
so.
I think so as well.
So that's interesting. That can go two ways. One, you can either be sharper than everybody else because you've played more competitive matches, or you could be tired. So that's something interesting.
Spurs had those qualification games last season, right? If I'm not
and it helped them. It helped them become much
so
sharper than everybody else.
Exactly.
But I don't.
But again, last season was a little bit of an anomaly because they didn't have.
It was very truncated. It was very truncated.
Very truncated, right? So it's different this season. Again, I just want to fit everything into my head.
Right. So I don't think there's any other, use point talking about Bowen and all those guys. Let's move on. Villa, I think we've already touched upon Grealish.
Yeah, let's move to the strikers. I reckon now. I think we've discussed midfielders.
Cool. So strikers, let's talk first up Calvert-Lewin at 8. I think I'm pretty interested. I like those Everton fixtures for attack more than defense.
Yeah, he's in my team for sure. At the start of the season, 8 million. It's a good price. The fixtures are good. He's a proven goal scorer. I don't see much wrong with him. I think he's a safe pick.
You've tinkered already and made your draft and it's all set or what?
I mean, there are 2 or 3 players I'm not sure about, but there are quite a few picks I'm very certain of. I mean, obviously a lot can change.
On the 22nd of June, you're sure about a lot of players except 2. Right. Come on,
in my mind, I like being certain regarding a few of my picks. So yeah. I have around 7 to 8 players who I think will be in my drafts. Looking at the fixtures because I've already.
I love that we've got this on video now. We're going to play this before game week 1 starts.
Rubbish. He's going to be panicking on the 12th of August, I think because I think it's a Friday game week.
Yeah, it's a Friday kickoff. Arsenal.
So many decisions that you're going to make last minute. Don't commit so early, man. That's all. I'm saying.
Let's see. I mean, I'm just a bit excited. I mean,
of course.
He's not commitment phobic. We know that.
So, I mean, there are a lot of forwards I like in the 7.5 to 8 million bracket. Then there's Watkins, who I've already spoken about Villa's fixtures and how how good they are in the first three in particular. So Watkins is proven as well. Those two are the ones I like the most. Other than that, the third striker is a bit
I
tough to
mean,
choose.
let me pose a question to you. Are you as interested in DCL if Rafa Benitez is their manager?
I mean, Wilson did reasonably well under him, so I mean, I won't back against Calvert-Lewin just because Benitez was their manager.
No, because you have options out there like Antonio and Watkins, like you
Yeah,
mentioned.
Antonio
Bamford.
is the third one I was coming to. He's probably the
Yeah.
one who who I like in terms of my pecking order. He's
I'm
probably
very
the third in my
disappointed.
pecking order.
I'm very disappointed.
Well,
And
were
I
you
know
expecting Facebook to come up?
yeah. No, you can keep that in your pants. This is meant to be safe for kids. We don't want any wood coming out here. Please keep that in.
I've already spoken about how I don't I'm a bit unsure about Leeds' fixture. So Bamford is not someone who I'm really considering. So Antonio is the other one who I have in mind. So these three for me: Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, and Antonio. These are the ones who interest me the most.
Nacho
Yeah.
as well.
And
And this is
Iheanacho.
assuming that Kane doesn't
Go to City.
And
Yeah.
Iheanacho as well, right?
Iheanacho I like too. I think
Ian Nacho as well. Yeah,
First-
Ian
first three for Leicester I really like: Wolves, West Ham, Norwich.
Yeah, Nacho as well. Depending on what happens in preseason, so probably one of Antonio or Nacho.
So West Ham have Newcastle, Leicester, Palace, Southampton. Decent fixtures for Antonio as well.
Iheanacho matter. They're about to sign a new striker as was pretty highly rated as well, Dhaka. So that's something worth monitoring
Yeah,
in terms
but
of
they're
how
playing in
they-
Europa League and stuff, right? I think they'll give him some time to bed in the Europa League. They won't
Exactly what I'm thinking.
throw him straight in. Right. Let's talk quickly about the name. I think a lot of us, we are looking at Tony from Brentford. What do you guys know about him?
So my thinking with Tony, right, and I mentioned it previously as well, the teams that he faces at the start of the season: Arsenal, decent defense. They ended the season pretty strong in defense last season. Villa, decent defense. Brighton, decent defense. Liverpool, decent defense. And then the other two fixtures are Palace and Wolves. Brentford seemed like a team that relied on service, and the situation is not like Leeds, where Leeds absolutely stormed the league last season. They blew away everybody else. They blew away the competition, and we knew that they were an all-attack team. Brentford struggled and managed to come through in the playoffs. So they aren't a Leeds in terms of reputation, in terms of how good they were. And Tony is not somebody who creates everything by himself. He scored a lot of pens as well, so we need to monitor that. A lot of those numbers are.
I think 7 or 8 penalties. I think he got 23 goals from open
Exactly.
play. I
So
think
a lot of those numbers are changed because of the pen, and he's relying on service. And how much services are Brentford really going to get? I'm not sure. So and I feel like for $1 million more, you have much more reliable strikers available for the taking. So that's where I am with Tony at the moment.
Yep. So we are not going to go, I think, as much detail. We are going to have FPL Irons, I think, sometime next week or maybe even earlier. He finished 8th in the championship game last season. So I think he'll be in a better position to talk to us a lot more about Tony and Brentford, about their identity and how they play. Because just some raw stats, there's 31 goals and 10 assists for Tony in the championship. Nobody else in the team reached double-digit goals or double-digit assists. So it's a perfect example of a talisman, as much as you can get.
Yep. I mean, the striker that interests me, if everybody is fit at Newcastle, is Wilson. I think he's a proper talisman. He's tended to start the season really well as well. And if he's fit, he's somebody I like as a differential early. And I think those 7-8 million spots are the spots where if you want to go for a decent differential or two, I mean, I'm borrowing this strategy from our friend Ton Freeman, who likes to punt in these spots. And his numbers per 90 minutes were very, very encouraging. So somebody I'm looking at is Wilson, and a name that I haven't spoken about, that I haven't seen mentioned too much, is Cavani. He's 8.5 million. I think he's going to be starting as a United striker. I don't think there's going to be any rotation for that spot early on when there's no Champions League. And you have 4 fixtures at the start for United: Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle. I think they're good fixtures. I think 8.5 million Cavani could offer some value.
Interesting. You seem quite bullish on United's prospects this season.
I mean, it's the fixtures, right? Our fixtures are great at the start. Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle. From an attacking point of view, that's pretty good.
Interesting. Yeah, but I guess it's just the end of season performances didn't really impress me. A lot of times that carries over into the next season. I'm just hoping, like you said, you're quite optimistic on Sancho signing. I think that sort of impetus is needed in the team. That sort of freshening up is very much needed.
Yep, I agree.
And I like
It
that you
just if
mentioned. I like that you mentioned Wilson. Now, I think even though you see Newcastle aren't very high up, the fixtures are actually pretty good. West Ham, Villa, Southampton, United away is not. Well, it's an easy fixture. Leeds, Watford. Then what else? That's a decent run.
yeah. I see that the Champions League win has already started affecting the balance that was there. It was there at the start of last season.
I know, but once you
Then
went below the table,
then it dwindled in the second of the season, and that
It
one
was
game
a
is so
trend.
bloody fucking Pep. Why did he do that?
let's keep the swearing to little.
All right. So yeah, those are the two names that interest me outside of the obvious ones that we've spoken about. I think DCL obviously deserves consideration.
Yeah.
Antonio, Watkins, all three of them discuss.
Let's just talk somebody we've not really talked about at all, and I don't think anybody has Bamford at 8.
I think there are better options out there.
I think his game time might be a bit more restricted also this season, no? With Rodrigo, I think he'll see a little bit more game time this year.
Yeah, I want to see what happens there because I was actually looking at some stats, and Bamford and Rodrigo's XG per 90 stats are exactly the same. So when they're both playing, their output is exactly the same. So I just want to see who's starting and who's playing where because the stats are same. So and Rodrigo is 6.5 million. So just something worth monitoring.
Yeah.
In the future.
I think Chelsea we've already discussed. I think Timo Werner is probably going to be a wait and watch for many. Hopefully you too this time, LR.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna wait and watch when it comes to.
So Norwich, I think Pukki also is pretty much is not much to talk about with those fixtures and Buendia
Walker is
gone.
a fan of Pukki, right? What's your thinking there, bud?
6 million, he might come into consideration at some point in the season, but not given the horrendous start that Norwich have been given. So not early on for me, but maybe at some point later in the year.
Fair enough.
Alright.
Should we open it up to questions? We already hit at anything else you guys would like to touch upon?
Yeah, I actually want to touch upon bargain basement budget picks. I mean, your squad fillers. Any 4.0 million defenders, 4.5 million strikers, midfielders that jump out to you guys? I know Brandon Williams might go on loan to Southampton.
Yeah.
And he's
That-
million.
and
So
that's something that I think will help a lot. The fact that FPL has launched early, you might have a lot of players now, 4.0 guys going to teams where they'll be starters now. Budget picks, like let's say if Rafinha goes to, let's say, a Liverpool or don't kill me Leeds fans. I'm just a hypothetical situation. Just like anything could happen of that sort. So that would make things interesting.
Your boys of Keenan is 4.5 million as well this season.
Yep. If I go for a 5 in midfield, he's going to be coming in for sure.
Bakar, anybody jumped out to you in that budget midfield bracket?
Honestly, I haven't looked much into it yet, so I'm not sure who's the one to go for. So
Yeah, we'll
I mean, the
definitely.
two names that in terms of nailed onness jumped out to me were Bissouma. Again, he's 4.5 million. I think he was very popular at the start of last season as well. In that
you think he stays at Brighton?
I think lots of clubs would be in for him. I think that's the key with Brighton. You know, I think my thinking is that a lot is going to change there because Potter, in this entire manager merry-go-round, Potter might switch places. Lamptey might switch clubs. Ben White might go to Arsenal. Like you mentioned, Bissouma is highly rated and wanted by everybody. So is Brighton going to be the same team? That's just something worth monitoring because everybody is relying on Brighton for these budget assets, but there's a lot of preseason left and a lot of transfers left. So I'm going to see what happens there.
Right. Before we move on to the Q&A, do you want to drop a line about all the content we have coming up in the next few weeks?
All right. So in terms of content that we have planned, the three of us are going to be obviously doing a much more detailed preview. This is just an initial reaction. So we're going to be coming on at least 2-3 times minimum, talking about all the teams, all the players. On the 5th of August, we are recording our first ever FPL Wire roundtable with Mark Southern's FPL General, Tom Freeman and Adam Hopcroft, where we're going to be talking about the game in general. So watch out for that. We also have an interview with Soren, who's the co-founder of DraftHound. He finished in the top 200 last season. I was just in fact chatting with him today. He's not seen any full Premier League game in the last 2 years, but he's seen every game in the last 10 years through text and stats. So he's a big advocate of stats, and that's how he started DraftHound. and it was his first year playing FPL, and he managed to finish in the top 200 because, he's a big advocate of only looking at statistics because he thinks that uh, eye test is noise. So that's going to be interesting. We have FPL Lions, that's Luke coming on. He hosts the fabulous Champman stream as well. He's coming on. He finished, like Zoff mentioned, in the top 10 in the championship fantasy game. So he's got a lot of knowledge of the three championship teams, and he's a West Ham fan. So we'll throw in some West Ham questions as well when he's coming on. So yeah, lot, and then who knows what else.
Let us know what sort of content you guys would like to see, because this is the first year we're actually doing a full preseason. So we'd like a lot of things. We have planned interviews with fans, interviews with various journalists who work with Athletic. As soon as transfers happen, we will talk about them. But do let us know what sort of content you would like to see in preseason in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. I think that'll be great, because we'll try giving you what you guys want, and we're very keen on just giving a lot more to you guys this season.
Precisely.
Let's open up the floor to questions if anybody has any.
Yep.
I think we'll do it for 5-10 minutes and then we can end the stream.
And disconnect. Yeah, with about an hour now, so another 10 minutes would be good.
I mean, what questions will they have early season? I mean, the game just launched today.
I know. You haven't been monitoring the chat. I think we've got a ton of questions already. People are mentioning players like Traore, Reed. A lot of I think the more of the question, there's somebody now asking a question I really like, thoughts on Mason Mount. Somebody we haven't covered actually in the budget.
What price is he?
7.5.
7.5.
Good value.
Yeah. He's going to be nailed for sure. So
He's a glue guy.
He's priced very correctly. So, I mean, when the fixtures are good, I can see myself going there.
The fixture run from game week 7 on, which is probably prime wildcard territory, are amazing.
Yeah. Actually, that's something we were talking about. Game week 7 to 8 is an early, just have a look at the fixture swing happening game week 7 or 8 onwards. And Chelsea and City have a great run of fixtures from that point. So it's a good option early on to just look at for the wild card.
Correct. Somebody is asking about Villa doubling up because the fixtures after game week 3 turn, and I think that's a good point. I've seen a few drafts already out there with Buendia and Watkins, or maybe Grealish and Watkins. I think I'd probably go with just one, because after game week 3 the fixtures turn quite bad.
Worth pointing out though, if Grealish does stay with Villa, they haven't done too badly against the big teams. In fact, they were the big team killers last season. So I wouldn't be too worried about that in attack if Grealish is staying. If Grealish is left them, then I might not even go with one from that Villa team.
I mean,
what do you...
Chelsea, Everton, United are those 3 fixtures. Not great.
Yeah. Just asking Bakar because you watched a lot of Watkins last season, and did you own him when Grealish wasn't there, Bakar?
Yes, I did. Villa looked horrendous for quite a large part of it, but
would you go there?
Improved. Sorry?
Would you go there if Grealish left?
I'm expecting Buendia to take up at least some of the creative responsibility. So I think I'd still go there. Yes.
All right. Akash Gogri actually pointed out a great defender, James Justin, 5 million if he is not injured. I think that's another great shout, especially if they continue with 3 at the back. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. I don't know. Leicester defense has never really filled me with confidence. And you look at the fixtures again, right? You have Wolves, which is probably the best fixture defensively in the first 5. Then you have West Ham away, Norwich away, City and Brighton away. I see about 1 or maybe 2 clean sheets max in the first 5.
Yeah. Also, I have the second half of the season stats in front of me. Leicester in the second half of the season, that's 18 game weeks, kept only 4 clean sheets.
Yeah.
Only Southampton have kept lesser. And then you have like 5 or 6 teams tied on with 4 clean sheets.
Leicester defense is now maybe Fofana at 4.5, even a rotation I like, but I don't think they're worth paying more than 4.5 for.
It's interesting because when it comes to that Leicester defense, I also think that they were a little bit unlucky in the second half of the season with the barrage of injuries that they had. So, if you have Pereira fit, Mihira, Maud just mentioned that Justin is out till November, but if you have Pereira fit, you have Evans fit. It's a strong, if you have Castagna fit, then it's a strong defense. Then you look at it.
Correct. A lot of questions about formation. Have you guys given any initial thoughts, or is it a bit too early on what formation you're going for? I think Bakar, you mentioned you're looking at 4.
Yeah, I'm looking 4 at the back to begin with.
So that's I
think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
So Because then it'll be what? Salah, another premium, maybe Bruno, +1, that's it.
Yeah.
Probably like a 6 to 7 million mid then, from what I can
Yeah,
understand. If he's planning Robertson in the back, he can't really have another mid-price-ish mid. He has to go for another budget mid, and then probably like 7.5, 8 million strikers.
Exactly.
What's the thinking, Bakar? Value?
Yeah, value, and it's just that I expect Liverpool to start well, and I like having Dini and Shaw because of the creative potential and the bonus potential they have. So I just think I'm going for the ceiling when I look at the players individually. In terms of my defenders, I think that they have a high ceiling.
Fair enough. I think as long as your captaincy is sorted, it's too early to be talking about nailing anything down, but just
Correct.
fair enough on that thought.
But for me, I think I'll very likely be playing a back three. I think whether I go for 5 in mid, that's probably, or 3 up top, that's probably remains to be decided. But I don't think I'll be going with 4 defenders to start with. I just don't like the clean sheet potential in the beginning of the season. I feel defenses get better as the weeks go on, not very early on.
Mario Kurniawan has a great question in terms of fatigue after Euros. Do you think it will have a bigger impact? Are you going to avoid players, maybe the French guys who are going deep into the competition? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, August 12th, you said the league starts?
Yep.
Yeah,
So you need some preseason times. The Euro, when is the last game?
12th, I think.
Of July?
Yeah.
So you have a month in the middle, you have 3 weeks off. Preseason, yeah, they could be a bit rusty. The teams that go deep into the tournament, you could have players who are a bit rusty. They don't play a full preseason, etc. Something to watch out for.
Yeah, agreed. That's something to watch out for. And especially like somebody like Bruno, right? I read somewhere that he's played the most number of minutes out of anybody in the European
Correct.
leagues, and he could be suffering from fatigue.
Correct.
But he's-
But I think a preseason will give us a big idea of that, and we will do a big preseason roundup for you guys at least 1 week before the season starts. We will go round up all the form players in preseason, all the lineups that we see in preseason. So I don't think that should really be a major issue.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to
Yeah.
mention that also because I think we mentioned that at the start of the last season as well. Preseason, essentially, what you need to try judging from the preseason is the system and the formation that the teams are going to employ. I mean, we had Dele Alli in form last season. But in preseason, I fell into that trap and he did nothing after game week 1. So just lesson learned, try going for more known quantities who are likely to play 70, 89, who are likely to be 80 plus minutes early on. And I think that's what you want to try judging, the systems. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think let's wrap up. We can probably have a more detailed
Yeah,
look
I think it was
later
a
on.
good start. Yeah. I mean,
Brilliant
it's just, I
start.
think we were missing talking FPL so much that we've just gone on and on, waffled away today. But yeah, thank you guys. I mean, we weren't expecting 350, 400 of you all joining us for this little stream. And we're looking forward to just being with you throughout the season. And in terms of any content that you want us to provide, just let us know in the comments. And that's it. Thanks for joining us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us. And if you're gonna become the fantasy football scout member, you should then use the link in the description below, because that link actually helps us as well, because we're affiliate partners, so it helps us and helps the stream, and we're looking to invest back. So yeah, that's it, and we'll see you soon. We'll follow our Twitter account as well. We set up a Twitter account, knowing at the rate the FPL Wire. So yeah, all our updates will be on that Twitter account, and yeah, that's about it.
All right, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Good
Any
night.
last words?
Good night.
Good night. Enjoy the Euros.